So my name is Gulli Bjornsson, and I'm a guitarist and composer from Iceland. Currently studying at Princeton University, where I'm working on my PhD in music composition. My music typically blends electronic and classical elements together in sort of immersive audio-visual performances. And in particular, I am inspired by nature in my music, and how nature can make me experience sort of special things, something I try to capture with my music. I started composing during summertime when I was an undergrad student. I would always go back home to Iceland. I was studying at Manhattan School of Music in New York, and I would go back there, and I had this amazing summer job that would translate as a creative summer job in Iceland. And it's something that the bigger municipalities in the capital region will offer what they deem to be talented artists. So essentially everybody has a right to be employed by their hometown. Typically you just work a gardening job, but then you can apply to do this artistic project. And this is only for people under 25. And I was lucky enough to get picked doing this like 3 summers in a row. And I would go and I would perform at these retirement homes, and I don't know, like whatever events were being done by other people in this creative summer job, sort of to strengthen my application to get picked, especially the second and third time, was that I would do some composing. So I started off writing just guitar pieces. So I wrote a set of etudes, and it was just like really fun, and like I was just kind of hooked, and it became this thing that I was just, over the next 6 years, I just started doing more and more of. I still pursued guitar performance studies. I went to Yale School of Music, where I studied, and started there to really get more serious, and started writing stuff with electric guitar also, and getting into computer programming, and sort of trying to tie these things like guitar playing, electronics, computer programming, visuals into something that I could sort of call my musical genre, my musical language. Typically, when I compose for guitar, it's a balance of writing things out and also improvising and then playing these sort of written down improvisations. Some people say you should never compose on the guitar because your fingers they fall into these like traps. You're gonna want to do what your fingers are doing, and then so you should like write at the piano, or you should write it all down on sheet music. But I feel there are also traps there. If you play on the piano, you're gonna kind of want to do what the piano wants to do, and then if you write it on the page, you're gonna want to be really smart and make everything symmetrical. And I found all of these methods to have some faults, so I try to find a balance between playing on the guitar, writing it down, and then playing it again until I find something that satisfies both the playing side and also my composition side. Igor Lichtman initially contacted me to write these pieces, and it was sort of asking maybe for etudes. It didn't necessarily have to be etudes, but that was the idea, that it would be these sort of progressive pieces that people of any difficulty level could play. And I just didn't want to write another set of etudes. I'd written even etudes myself before, so this concept of landscapes was just something that came to mind during a discussion with my girlfriend, and writing music that is inspired by nature is something that really works for me. And I was also in Iceland at the time, so I was going to my parents' cabin in the woods, which is like my favorite place in the world, and just was very connected with Iceland at that moment and landscapes. So it took me a little while to get into it, and then once I sort of felt what I wanted to do, it just came very organically out of me, and this connections with the landscapes is something that wasn't me looking at a painting or thinking of a landscape and trying to catch it. It was much more a compositional idea I had, and then as I would start playing it and was developing it compositionally, like something would come into mind. I'd really feel something. So very much a composition process that involved a feeling as well as thinking. I think sort of programmatic elements in music and sort of descriptions that help you play and interpret in a certain way are always great. In terms of a lot of these landscapes that I'm talking about, they're very Icelandic, and some of them maybe people wouldn't be familiar with. So it might be hard, like if you go on Google, to find these specific landscapes and images. But so sort of to aid this, I actually created visuals for all the pieces that, like, people, if they go to my website, which is gullibjornsson.com, they can go under compositions and find a link where they can actually download visuals, and that's sort of here on the cover page of the score. And so those really capture kind of the aesthetic and the mood of the compositions. So you can definitely try your luck. Just Iceland landscapes, you'll probably get the idea, but the specific descriptions might be kind of hard to find. As a student at Princeton right now, I have like opportunities to work with like amazing ensembles and collaborate with them and write music. So one thing that's happening really soon is a recording of my first string quartet with Grammy-nominated Izuri Quartet. Like, they're absolutely amazing. I'm so ecstatic that they're playing this piece. So we are recording and filming that under very complicated and strict COVID procedures at Princeton. Another thing, I'm writing a little concerto something for Contemporaneous, which is a really awesome New York-based ensemble. And I also have exams at the end of next spring that I have to really study for. I'm looking at this software called Big Clavier, which is an amazing digital piano program that my teacher at Princeton, Dan Truman, has developed, and also developing my own audio effects and sort of slowly figuring out what my dissertation would be. And then other cool projects I'm working on just with individual artists who've commissioned me to compose mostly electroacoustic music. Yeah, I think one thing I've definitely realized is how important it is for especially chamber music or when you're not playing solo or just purely electronic, how important it is to kind of be in the space together. My technology, computer programming brain was like really interested in like maybe getting people to play at different locations, but it's all these latency problems and it's very complicated. So I mostly miss just being able to be in a room with a group and just working on music and getting feedback that way. Being on Skype is kind of terrible for that kind of stuff because I can't really hear the details. But even now with Zoom and the high fidelity audio mode, it's quite a lot better, but it's still not the same. So I think in terms of music making, that sort of collaboration with the ensemble, it's there's this disconnect there because we're not actually in the same room. A nice thing about these pieces is they're very idiomatic on the guitar. Like, you're not gonna be fighting the guitar to make music that just kind of sounds good. I was really thinking of what works for the guitar. There's a lot of cross string arpeggios, really getting the resonance there. And it was sort of, there's a lot of pieces that are great pieces, especially from the classical era, they're great, but then there's always like these couple of moments where it gets really hard. And having taught many beginner guitar students, it's always like, oh, it's great, and then that moment comes and it just kind of collapses. So you're not gonna have many of those, I think, in these pieces. I was just trying to make some nice music, really just trying to take any ego or ambition or anything like that, kind of just put that aside and just really write something that felt good to play and I thought sounded good and people might like hearing.